Welcome to toy-polloi.
Hello and welcome to another video from toy-polloi, and today we are making another cape, or in this case a skirt, because today we are making the skirt for a vintage Kenner Klaatu from Star Wars Return of the Jedi. Now this is actually a pretty easy figure to come by, but you'll see more often than not that his skirt is either missing or damaged. The material that they use for the cape degrades really quite badly, so it's going to be quite a fun one to do. It's also going to be quite a tricky one to do because we've got to do two bits of fabric sewn together, and one of those is a pleather. So let's get on with the project and see what we can do to make a skirt for Klaatu. Okay, so as I mentioned, we are going to be making a skirt for Klaatu, and it is a little bit more of a complicated skirt than some of the other sort of capes that I've made for Star Wars figures, because it requires two bits of fabric very neatly sewn together. Now when you collect Star Wars figures, you'll find Klaatu is a pretty easy one to come by, and he often looks like this with the skirt completely missing. And if you do find him with a skirt, the skirts are tending to look like this these days. The fabric degrades, or certainly the sort of furry fabric part of it degrades, and you end up with this sort of white piece left. You can see here, this is another one that I've got where the fabric is just starting to fall apart. So this fur section is falling away from the backing, and he starts to look really scruffy. So what we need to do first is to make a pattern for this skirt, and to do that we're actually going to have to take one of these off. So this skirt here is the sort of the roughest one that I've got, but it still holds the basic shape. So if we can take this skirt off, we can use this to make a pattern. And with this figure, the removal of the skirt is pretty awkward. You actually have to sort of squeeze his legs together and just gently push it down, and it will come off. And once we've got that off, let me just take that very carefully off, because the fabric is pretty delicate on this one. There we go. So we've now got the skirt off. What I can do is take this down to my computer, and I'll scan this in on a flatbed scanner, and then take those scans into Photoshop, and I'll make a pattern. Once we've got that, we can see if we can actually recreate this as neat as it's been sewn here. And I've got to have a look in my fabric bag and see if we've got some fabric that will match. So first up, let's make this pattern. And so here we go. This is the pattern that I've made. I've just printed it out onto some A4 printer paper, cut it down a little bit just so you can see it here, and then on the back I have stuck some double-sided tape. We will need that in a minute for when we actually cut it out of some fabric, and that's the next thing we've got to do, is choose some fabric. Now a while back I showed you how to make a replacement cape for faux, and he uses a sort of pleather material, and we're going to use the same pleather on this one. It's not quite the right colour, and it wasn't actually quite the right colour for faux, but you can see it does look pretty good. It's slightly grayer than the sort of beigey brown that the original pleather is, but I think it will work, and I do have rather a lot of it, so it's good to reuse fabric that you've already got rather than buying new stuff. We now need to work out something for this fake fur. I don't have any fake fur, but I have lots and lots of toy knit, which is a very good sort of match for other Star Wars capes, and I think that's what we're going to use. And I've got it in absolutely loads of different shades of sort of browny colours, so I just need to pick a colour of this that goes very well with the pleather that I've got. The originals, as you can see if I bring them in, they're almost the same tones. The fur is, yeah, possibly a little bit darker, but it's pretty much the same tone. So I'm hoping I've got something here that will match. You can see some of these are a bit light, although the light colour does work. I've got an even lighter one here. That one quite works. Actually, that looks like the sort of the under sort of fabric that the fur is on, so maybe that one would work. Well, I've got this much more fawny colour. It's possibly a bit dark. I've got another one here which is a little bit lighter still. I actually think this one is probably the best. I think those two go together well, so we're going to use these. You can use whichever colours you like, really. I think there possibly will be a better match of fur, but I'm not going to buy a sort of sheet of fur material just for this tiny bit of fabric. I think we can get away with using some stuff that I've already got. So let's rearrange my desk and we'll cut some of these out, and then we'll start sewing. Now I've chosen the fabric, we can get to cutting out this pattern. As I said, I've already put some sticky tape on the back of it, and the reason I do that is you can then stick it onto the fabric and cut around it. With these small pieces, it's very hard to pin and cut around, and double-sided tape makes it much easier. So let's cut these two pieces out. The pleather piece is this small bit at the top. That's essentially the bit that wraps around his waist as a belt, and then the larger part of this pattern we'll be doing in this toy knit or looped fleece. You can get this off AliExpress. I'll put a link to where I buy all of my materials so you can get some for yourself. But let's get these cut out and then we'll get the fabric cut out. As you can see, I've now cut out the patterns, and I did actually make a rookie mistake while cutting them out. I cut one out the wrong way round. You can see this pattern has a sort of dip on one side. This is actually the front of the pattern, and I stuck it on the back of this material, so it looks right like that, but it's actually the wrong way round when it comes to the final cape. So yeah, that was a rookie mistake. So I've cut out a couple more, and this is what I've ended up with. And I think they look pretty reasonable as far as the colour goes. It's not an exact match, as I say, but I'm very happy with the sort of the two tones together. Now we've got the fun part, because we have to sew these two pieces together. So we need to put the pleather on top of the toy knit, line it up as neat as we can, and then we've got to sew an incredibly neat straight line all the way around the top. Normally when I sew capes you don't have to worry too much about the sewing because it's always hidden inside, but on this one it's very obvious all the way around the top edge. So I'm going to try and sew this as neat as I possibly can. If you didn't want to do that, you probably could use some fabric glue and glue these two pieces together, then just do a little bit of sewing on the edge there when we join the two ends together. But I'm going to try my hardest to sew a neat straight line along the top. It may not work particularly well because my sewing is not actually that good. I sort of get away with it because, as I say, mostly it's hidden inside. But let's see what we can do and see if we can get a sort of neat line. As you can see, I've made two of these now. I've done a sort of practice run just to see how neat I could get it, and actually that is not too bad. It's clearly not as neat as the original one, which was done on the sewing machine, but to do this by hand, I think that's about the best I can get, and yeah, I think it will work pretty nicely. So now we've got to sew the two ends together, but before I do that I just want to check it actually fits around his waist, which I'm hoping it does. Yep, that all fits really well. So what we've got to do is sort of turn this inside out and just attach those two ends together. I've left the pleather a little bit long at this stage, just because I wasn't sure whether I would need to add a bit extra just to make it fit around the waist, but I think that will be fine. So basically I'm going to fold this over and I'm just going to sew as close to the fabric, the toy knit fabric, as I can, just a vertical line down there. Then we can trim those two edge pieces off and turn it inside out, and then we'll see what it looks like and see how it fits onto the figure. So let's get that little bit sewn. I'll sew both of these, so we've got a couple of skirts to try. Now that's all sewn, we can actually try these on the figure. So they're going to be a bit of a tight fit like the original skirt was, so we just have to squeeze the legs together and try to push this up without tearing anything. And there we go. I don't think that looks too bad at all. It really does make the figure look complete. Without it, he's a bit of an odd looking figure because you're so used to seeing him with the skirt. So yeah, that is really not too bad at all. Let's put the other one on, see what it looks like on this one. Again, just squeeze the legs together. yeah, that really does make quite a big difference. I'll bring in the original skirt so you can see that's the original one, which is really past best. I'm not actually even going to put this back onto a figure. And I have the other one here that's already starting to fall apart, and you can see the three together. These aren't a perfect match, but they certainly make him look a whole lot better. So yeah, I'm very happy with how that's turned out. Maybe in future I can find a pleather that is a better match, but for now, at least Klaatu has his skirt back on. And so there we go, that is it for this video. If you want to have a go at making these skirts or capes yourself, then head on over to toy-polloi.com. I will put the pattern there for you to download. Just download it, print it onto some A4 printer paper and have a go, see what you can do. The end result I'm pretty happy with. It's not the best cape I've ever made, but using this pleather is really hard work, and getting a neat line sewn into it I do find really quite a difficult job. So I'm sure some of you out there will be able to produce better skirts and capes than I have produced here, but at least you have the pattern to get you started with. And if you find any better fabric, then do let me know, because I'm still looking for a pleather that's in a more sort of beigey colour, and I could also do with finding some faux fur that also matches the original Klaatu cape. But for now, at least these figures are looking good enough to go back on display. If you've enjoyed this video, then make sure to hit the subscribe button and tap the bell to be notified each time I upload a new video. And if you've really enjoyed it and want to help me out here at toy-polloi, then why not think about becoming a patron of the channel. You get early access to all of my restoration videos, plus access to an exclusive video series called On the Cutting Mat, where you'll see projects and restorations that you won't see anywhere else. So have a think about that, and thanks for watching.
Thanks for watching Toy-Polloi. Subscribe for more great videos.